All right, everybody, good afternoon. Welcome back. We have more positional big boards to do. We are ranking tight ends. And obviously, there are not as many tight ends in this draft as there were receivers. There aren't as many as there were running backs. It's just not a position that produces guys on an assembly line like receiver and running back, but it's a fairly interesting collection of talent regardless. So let's take a look at these tight ends here. Let's try to understand what we're dealing with. I've got them ranked in order of most to least valuable on my big board. Once again, if you want to see my total and complete big board 1 to 287, you can download it off my Patreon if you pledge $10 or more, or if you become a tier 3 member here on YouTube, you can find it in the community tab. So, let's take a look at the tight ends here. Number one is, there's not much to say. Bowers is. There are not very many tight ends I've seen that compare to this guy. And I've said it before, I'll say it again. I think he's probably the best tight end prospect I've ever seen in terms of bringing so much compelling stuff to the table. I think he's going to be great. I just cannot imagine him being anything other than a stud in this league. Number two is still Tavion Sanders. I know it's kind of weird right now with him because he didn't produce a ton at Texas, but you got to keep things in context. The testing wasn't very good, but you got to keep that in context as well. I feel like he's a guy who might be a first round talent that's just going to go in probably the second round because of circumstance. And I still put a decent amount of value on him. And I could see him being really undervalued here because he is in a unique situation here. He kept slipping on his 40-yard dash, which undersold his speed, and the production wasn't huge because he's playing with two stud receivers. Ben Sinote to me is number three, and this was something that took a while for me to really come around on. Ben Sinote of Kansas State. He's just the best, the third best tight end in this class. He is. There's a guy in this class who we're going to talk about in a second who I loved all year, and I still like him a lot, but Sinote brings a bunch of different things to the table here. He's got the receiving talent, he's got the yak, he's got the strength. He could be a really good all-around tight end. He's a good athlete. His testing scores were good. Like, he's bringing a lot to the table here. Not on the level of Bowers or Sanders, but it's pretty clear here that combined with his really good production, he's deserving of this draft stock and might even sneak into the second round at this point. All right, so that gets us through the big three. Fourth place is the guy I was just talking about, Cade Stover. Really like him still. I know he's not exciting because he's not a great athlete, but I think he's going to fill the need of a blocking tight end who can catch well. I compared him a little bit to Will Dissly. He is a better athlete than Will Dissly by a little bit, I think, but he's certainly not an athlete on the level of some of these other tight ends that you see these days. And at the end of the day, I understand that he's not going to get people super excited in the way that a Bowers or a Sanders does with their athleticism, but I think he'll be a good pass catcher and he'll also be a good blocker. He'll be a tight end 2 in this league, and those are valuable. Some teams would place a lot of value on a tight end 2. 5, gonna go ahead and take a chance here with Tip Ryman, this Illinois guy. This is the big dude, the 270-pound dude who blocks really well and didn't catch very many passes, mostly because Illinois doesn't have a very good quarterback, but also because he himself is limited value in that area. So I understand that people are going to look at the numbers and they're not going to get it, but this guy has the potential to be a great blocker, and he could be at least a possession receiver in this league, and you just need to trust your coaching staff to be able to develop him. If he can do that, then he'll be really good in this league, and I think he might be worth, I'm not going to say a top 100 pick, but probably a top 150 pick, right? The potential there is notable. Theo Johnson's my next guy, testing workout warrior. Didn't really show it on the field that much. You guys know the drill. You guys know how this story goes. But really good combine, good combination of size and speed and athletic ability. But for some reason, it didn't translate to actually producing on the football field. So make of it as you will. But I do think he's the sixth best tight end in this class. I would take his potential over anyone else in this class who, for the most part, have pretty low ceilings. Jared Wiley of TCU, Texas Christian University. He might be the last truly interesting guy to me in this class. He produced pretty well at TCU. He was a good all-around receiver, potential to be a good blocker. So I could see a little bit of excitement around Jared Wiley. He would probably be the last guy that I would be circling. Everyone else is just kind of like filler for if you need a third tight end, or you need maybe a fourth tight end for your practice squad, or you're just looking to spend a BPA pick on any position and you're not really thinking about things beyond that. AJ Barner of Michigan would be my number 8. Could be a good blocker, I'll say that. Maybe he has a little bit of a ceiling here, but I don't think he'll ever be a starter because he's just a blocker. Dallin Holker of Colorado State, kind of soured on him after looking at the tape a little bit, but still compelling, still really productive last year at Colorado State. He was one of the most productive players in the country at the position last year, I think. He was a very, very good receiver, so there's a little something there. We got Jaheim Bell, a guy who I was excited about last year, and it was just kind of like, eh. So I ended up bumping him all the way down here into like the close to undrafted territory. He's not there, but he's getting close to that undrafted territory for me. They're just he's just not got enough. He's not big enough. He doesn't have the size. There's just not enough going on here. Brevin Spanford kind of has the opposite problem. He does have the size, but he doesn't really do anything all that well. He's a pain to deal with if you're the defense. He's also a pain to deal with if you're the quarterback because he doesn't make enough plays in the passing game despite having a massive size advantage on like everybody he goes up against. Number 12, we have Tanner McLaughlin of Arizona. Just kind of a forgettable tight end prospect to me. Just kind of slipped in and out of my mind as soon as I finished watching him. But probably worthy of being drafted. Not by much, but he's draftable. Eric All of Iowa, a lot of injuries kind of hold him back. I think he's barely draftable because of all the injuries he's had to deal with. And then my final guy would be Devin Culp, Washington. I think he's definitely not going to get drafted. He's just so small, and his hands aren't that good. So there's just not enough. I know he's fast. I know he's a interesting athlete, but he's not really... He doesn't really do anything well enough to justify how small he is. So those are all the tight ends I looked at. There is Jack Westover, who I didn't officially scout, but I didn't want to put him on the list, even though I obviously watched him play a ton last year, and I know what's up with him, basically, right? He's a try-hard guy. He's very limited physical talent, but he's got good hands. He's there when you need him. He does, like, it's almost like Jacob Hollister or something. But I didn't feel right putting him on here because I didn't include him on my evaluations. But he would be another guy I would consider to be undrafted. He would be probably right in line with Culp to me. All right, those are the tight ends. So let me know what you think. Let me know if you have any extreme variations here. Let me know what you think of the list. And we are cutting over to the offensive line starting tomorrow. So tune in tomorrow. We're going to have a couple videos on the offensive line going left to right, trying to figure out who's who and what is what in this class. All right. See you guys tomorrow. Maybe I'll have another video later today, but if not, probably see you on Twitch. Go Hawks. And yeah, tight ends. What do you think?